The town of Dry Hollow baked beneath the July sun, dust curling in the air with every gust of wind. Horses whinnied from behind the livery, and the wooden buildings creaked under their own age. The frontier never forgave weakness, and didn't much favor kindness either. Jed Cooper rode in slow, saddle-worn and weary. His black Stetson was low over his eyes, and his duster bore the grit of 3 counties. A former gunslinger, Jed had left his outlaw days behind after the Red River Massacre. Since then, he rode alone, hunting work and peace in equal measure. Neither lasted long. As he passed a stable, his horse, Buck, jerked to a halt. Something had spooked him. Jed narrowed his eyes. From the shadow of a nearby stable, a soft cry, thin, reedy, tugged at him. A baby? He dismounted and stepped closer. Near the haystack, tucked under a loose wool blanket, lay a baby boy, squirming weakly. Beside him, curled tight and asleep or unconscious, was a woman. Her dress was torn, her hands scraped and bloody. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Jed crouched down and lifted the blanket gently, revealing a pale face beneath a tangle of red-brown hair. She stirred, moaning. Jed said, his voice gruff but low. "You all right?" Her eyes fluttered open, green, storm-tossed, and filled with panic. She sat up too fast, clutching her child. "Don't take him," she rasped. "Please, just let me keep him." Jed raised both hands slowly. "Ain't here to take anything. Just heard the little one crying, duh." She stared at him a long moment, assessing. Then her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. "His name's Eli," she whispered. Jed looked from the baby to the woman. "And you?" She hesitated. Clara Barnes." Jed didn't miss the bruising along her jaw or the blood on her dress. Whoever she'd run from hadn't been gentle. "You need a doctor." "We can't," she said quickly. "They'll find us." Jed's brow furrowed. "Who?" She hugged the baby tighter. "My husband's men. Or worse, my husband himself." Chapter 2, Dust and Shadows. Over the next few days, Jed brought them food from town, claiming he'd found an orphan calf out by the stable that needed hand-feeding. Nobody asked too many questions. Clara stayed hidden, her eyes constantly watching the horizon. Eli grew stronger by the hour, and so did the bond forming between the 3 of them. One evening, as the sky painted itself orange and purple, Clara sat beside Jed, her baby sleeping in her arms. "You're not like most men I've met," she said quietly. Jed chuckled, staring into the fire. "That ain't necessarily a compliment." "I meant it as one." She looked at him. "You saved us." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small coin, worn in silver. "My sister gave me this when we were kids. Said if I ever forgot who I was, I should hold it and remember I wasn't born to be cruel." "Where is she now?" "Buried in Abilene." His voice tightened. "Caught in a raid meant for me." Clara reached over and gently touched his hand. "That wasn't your fault." Jed looked at her, really looked, and saw in her the same haunted pain. "Your husband, what did he do?" She turned her face to the fire. "He was a cattle baron near Laramie. Powerful, controlling. The moment I gave birth to a son, he turned colder than the Wyoming snow. Started talking about legacy, bloodlines. He didn't want a wife. He wanted an heir." Jed clenched his jaw. "I ran the night he hit Eli for crying too loud." Her voice cracked. "I wrapped him up and walked 3 days before your town came into view." Silence stretched between them until Eli stirred and whimpered. Jed took the boy gently, cradling him in his arms like he'd done it 100 times. "He trusts you," Clara said, eyes misting. Jed stared at the baby. "Funny thing is, I trust him too." Chapter 3, Blood on the Wind. The peace couldn't last. 3 riders came into town a week later, lean men with hard eyes and Laramie brands on their saddles. Jed spotted them as he walked out of the saloon, the weight in his gut dropping like a stone. They didn't ask about cattle or supplies. They asked about a red-haired woman with a baby. Jed mounted up fast, dust trailing behind him as he rode to the stable. Clara was already packing, panic in her every movement. "They're here," Jed said. Clara went still. "Then we have to run." Jed looked at the child, then at her. "You won't get far this time." Her lip trembled. "Then what do we do?" Jed checked his revolver and met her eyes. "We make a stand." That night, they set up camp farther out in the hills, near the canyons where Jed had once hidden from the law. With Clara and Eli tucked in a rock shelter, Jed watched the trail through the dark. When the riders came, he met them head-on. "You got something belongs to Mr. Barnes," one growled. Jed spat into the date. "Don't see his name on her anywhere." The fight was brutal. Jed took a bullet to the shoulder, but the memory of his sister's grave and Clara's trembling eyes kept him on his feet. One rider fled. Two lay still in the dust. When Jed staggered back into the cave, Clara rushed to his side, sobbing, "You're hurt." He smiled through the blood. "Been hurt worse by love." She kissed him then, soft and desperate, like he was the last good thing in a world full of ruin. Chapter 4, Love Beneath the Ashes. Days passed. Jed healed slowly, his arm bound tight. Clara tended him with the care of someone who knew what it was to suffer in silence. One morning, as Eli giggled in the dirt nearby, Clara brushed Jed's hair back from his brow. "You don't have to stay," she whispered. Jed blinked. "Ain't planning on leaving." "But you've got a life, a past." He took her hand. "I've got a future now. That's what matters." Tears filled her eyes. "I was so broken when you found me." He smiled. "We were both broken. Just didn't realize we were the pieces each other needed." In the weeks that followed, Jed built a cabin near the canyon's edge. Townfolk assumed he'd gone back to drifting. No one saw Clara, or guessed the outlaw and the mother had found something rare in the wild, a chance to be whole. Jed hung up his gun on a nail above the hearth, and every night, Clara sang Eli to sleep by firelight. She wasn't the same woman who'd cried in the hay that first day, and he wasn't the same man who'd once lived with ghosts. Chapter 5, The Stable Where It Began. Spring came early the next year. Jed walked down the ridge one morning, a bundle of tools on his back, and found Clara sitting beside the stable where they'd first met. She held Eli on her lap and smiled when Jed approached. "Thought we might visit the place that changed everything," she said. Jed chuckled and sat beside them, lifting Eli into his arms. The boy gurgled and reached for Jed's hat. Clara leaned her head on his shoulder. "If you hadn't come by that day." "I did, though," he said, voice thick, "and I'd do it again every damn time." They sat there a while longer, the dusty wind wrapping around them like a warm shawl. In the distance, thunder rolled, maybe a storm, maybe just cattle moving on the plains. But neither of them looked up. The danger had passed. The ghosts were buried. What remained was a cowboy, a mother, and a child. And love, hard-earned, deeply rooted, and as unshakable as the frontier itself.